All right, here we are at the store again. I've been here once or twice. But today I want to show you, we're going to start out with some of the new Betta features. Now you may have seen this video that kind of went viral for, we've got 1 billion of them, but we're making some improvements. So down low, we've got all new graphics that we had made up just to start helping people figure out like what a half moon is, a placat, a crown tail. And then as you kind of go, it's like, oh, here's how we're medicating them. And then here's tank mates, different plant callouts that are real easy, things like Amiroma mossball, Java fern, dwarf lilies. Just trying to make it easy because a lot of Betta people are new, not everyone obviously. What you notice that we're not advertising is we don't have any bowls or anything like that. We don't advocate for that at all. We advocate for more of a proper home. Down here we've got, you got to make sure you get some food and maybe some toys like a floating Betta log or rock or, the mirror. And then we just have a rad Aquarium Co-Op logo because we have so many Bettas, we ran out of things to advertise down here. Now, why do we do that? Cory, you're always just pitching products. That's true. You should buy all of our stuff. It actually was, they were getting so much damage. People would kick them. And so you get all of this happening. Kids or just people would accidentally kick them. And so we put this on. And it's a super high quality vinyl, and you can get your duckweed gunk on there and all that. How funny would it have been if we had put like Ixis on these or something, like we put ick on the fish. But over here, we've been having, I don't want to call it problems, but the Betta system we brought in, over time, water has been getting between the paint and the glass. And it doesn't look very good. And Aquarium Co-Op goes, yeah, that looks pretty crappy, so we got to make that look better. And so that's what we're doing right here. We've had custom acrylic little aquariums made, and this is twice the size of the current ones they're in. It's actually a little bit bigger than twice, and we're actually having them all made now, and all the Bettas will live in the dual size. And so it's quite a bit. We added on size to the back as well. So now they're actually pretty deep. And so you have this, but then in comparison, so you've got this big surface area. In comparison before, they lived in this. So while it's more than 2 times wider, it's also basically like 2 times front to back. So we really upgraded. Each Betta's getting like 4x the space. So yes, will we have less Bettas? We'll drop to somewhere between, I think we dropped down to about 120 Bettas at any one point, but they'll be that much happier. So yeah, that's just one improvement we're doing there because we saw a need for it and people are going to ask. Because we get people asking all the time from other stores, what do you do in your Betta setups? What are you doing with this and that? These are custom made. I don't have any more for sale, unfortunately. You're going to ask me where I got them made. I got them made in China. It's very expensive to get prototypes sent, but when you buy a lot of them, which I'm going to be buying hundreds because if they get dropped and scratched and that kind of thing, the price goes down to affordable. Now, if I was only making 1 rack, for sure, I would have a local acrylic maker do that. You could also do these yourself if you really needed to, but yeah, unfortunately, we can't help you. People sometimes get mad at us, other stores, like, you're just holding us down. Like, no. Contact any other manufacturer, like Tenacor or something like that. If you're buying in volume, they're willing to make custom stuff, and so that's kind of the way it works. Down below here, because we get a lot of questions about this as well, we run lots of sponge material. That's the first bay, right? That's what all this is down here. Sponge, fine filter pad. Then we go to fine filter pad and crushed coral. Then we go to bio rings and a phosphate pad just to fight a little bit of the algae. Then over here we run it with a power head and we basically are floating a UV sterilizer in there. We use salt in this system to treat any kind of velvet or something that would pop up, bacterial infections, because all of the water is shared. We do lots of water changes. There's nothing special. A lot of people don't believe us when we say, you're just using salt. Well, I use salt at my store or this, and I'm not getting the same result. Do realize you need to feed them high quality food every day. You need to water change, not every day, but at least once a week, the system. You need to control the temperature right now. By the end of this video, you will see sweat on my back because it is hot in here. We're at 80 degrees. And so therefore all of these are of the right temperature as well. So all of those things are important and none of them are less important than the other. I find the biggest one from me working in a store for a long time is getting each one of them food. Because the problem is when you have 9 tanks, that's 9 different tanks you got to feed, where my whole rack of tanks over there is only 42. That's basically 1 1/3 of these. So it takes a very long time for our employees to feed each one of these every day, to clean them, to do all of these things. It's kind of one of those, how do you make it look so good? I spend a lot of money and a lot of employee time, and you find the employee that really cares. And it's not that my employees don't care, it's a very monotonous task. So the ones that really enjoy bettas, they have a higher tolerance to, well, I'm gonna make this one's home better, I'm gonna do this one, I'm gonna do that one. And that really goes a long way towards the whole betta station that we've got going. And they typically like to talk about bettas and selling them as well. We'll make improvements where we can, though. Obviously, we found a couple. We'll probably find more in the future, and we'll adapt. If you were to walk right in through the door, you'd be greeted by lots of neon tetras with yo-yo loaches, or actually, they're not. They're Angelicus loaches. And yes, someone did ask, could we show the prices? So we're going to try to show more prices than last time, but it's really hard to show all the prices. So know that I am trying to accommodate some of you, but we probably won't be good enough to do all of you. And yes, our prices are going to be different, because there's always people like, I can get a neon tetra, they'll pay me $2 to take it. Yes, ours are $3.29. Ours have been quarantined. That's basically it, really. Like, we quarantine, we feed them live baby brine every day and that kind of stuff, and some people that's worth the money, and some people go, I can get one of those at a chain store for $1 when they're on sale. Yes, but we will take care of you if something goes wrong, and the odds of something being sick is much lower. Not that we've never sold a sick fish, because that does happen. You can't have thousands and thousands and thousands of fish and have them all 100% healthy. That's impossible. In here, though, we do have a betta living with them. We also have Apistogramma Abacaxis. I don't even know how to say it, but they're 35 bucks a piece. I've actually never kept them yet. It is not a setup we would normally recommend. Like, this is temporary, obviously. It depends on your aquarium. These are all 20-gallon tanks, by the way. Ooh, these I actually do like. Down here, I brought these in specifically for me, because I'm really on like a Rosy barb kick. I've got some in my fish room right now. They're a longfin, and I wanted to bring some of these to my new fish room and breed them, because I think they can be bred outside as well. These are the neon Rosy barbs. They're a little bit more enhanced color than your standard Rosy barb. The boys have all the color, the girls are the gold color. That being said, the gold is kind of like a gold barb, so I don't think you're getting anything less when you get the females also. So I highly recommend getting yourself boys and girls, maybe 3 of each if you're getting a 6-pack or something like that. They're a little spendy, they're $4 a piece, but in my opinion, getting 6 new pets for $24, that's the cheapest you've ever walked out of a pet store if you've got dogs and cats and birds and that kind of stuff. So really like those guys. We mix them in with Paleotis Corys or salt and pepper Corys. They can go a little bit cooler water. And then the other fish you'll see in here is the paradise fish, which is kind of the old school betta. They are really good at being in unheated aquariums. And because they're not highly inbred, they're actually pretty hardy as well. So that makes them cool. Up top, a long-time favorite. We always put these up front because they usually react, if we have enough of them, to your hand. So they'll usually come right up and people get to play with them, and then they start falling in love with, like, whoa, do all tetras do this? Well, not all of them do it, but this is usually enough fun for even the person that comes with the fish fanatic to have some fun of, like, wow, that's amazing. And they, kind of the classic phrase is, honey, why don't we get some of these? Where the average person might go, well, I don't necessarily want those, but to the other person, these are cool. And they are cool. I do like this fish. You do have to have usually about 30 of them. As they get more adult, you're going to see a lot more of that deep orange color, where right now they're all kind of the same color, boy and girl, but the males get a lot of color to them, and they look pretty good. Now, these will outcompete a lot of fish. So if you've got a lot of reclusive eaters, they're going to get the lion's share of food. And so just watch out for that. If you're mixing them with, like, let's say you're mixing them with a puffer or something, and you want the puffer to get bloodworms, they're probably not going to get too many of them. So keep that in mind. All right, here we've got Medaka Ricefish. This is the orange version, locally bred. We've got Vienna Guppies. These Vienna Guppies are from my fish room. The Medaka Ricefish originated from my outdoor ponds. These ones, I believe that Dean has actually been breeding these ones. And then we've got a few neon gobies in there. Price has been coming down on these a little bit. Like, we got them at $25 a pair for the Vienna Guppies. Looks like we're still, there's a lot of males in here. I might have to bring in some more females. Oh, there's some females, but we're definitely male heavy, so we will, I will remedy that, because I got a decent amount ready to go. I was trying to breed them up, because once I move them, it'll kind of slow down their reproduction. Now these guys down low, well, up and low, so we've got zebra Danios, you know, for a couple bucks, nice and healthy, great beginner fish. But then down low, I've got other types of Danios, and I've been talking about these guys a lot because I feel like they're really underappreciated. And that's the Leopard Danios that are in here. I just think they're, you know, compared to like a gold ring Danio, it's going to be kind of expensive. These guys are amazing at $249. You know, this day and age with the cost of living and all of that, $249 for a fish is really good, especially one that, you know, you can see the bellies on them are fat because they're eating live baby brine shrimp every day in addition to other things. But they've been quarantined and all that, and they're healthy. So it's really hard to do at this point to get a fish healthy under like $5, honestly. Down below, we've got bronze Corydoras. The good thing is you can see some small ones here, like those guys are what you typically buy, and then you get to see, whoa, they get that big? Yes, at least that big there. So. And then we've got the Bolivian ram right above. They're way easier and can go cooler water. So all the tanks that are low in the store like this, they actually run a few degrees cooler. And so that's why we've got like paradise fish and all these fish that didn't have to be heated over here. We've got the same thing going on over here, and that's kind of a theme that we have going there. What is that sound? It's driving me nuts. Is this little fridge? Well, it's a good thing we got a brand new freezer coming. Ugh. Our freezer broke, and so we had to order a whole new one, and that's why it looks weird over there. We had to tear a bracket out. They don't make small freezers anymore, and we've outgrown it, so we got to buy. It's the most I've ever spent on an appliance. It was over $5,000 for a freezer. So it got all the features that we didn't know we needed when we first opened, like when you go to the grocery store, right? You open it up and you close it and it fogs up and it goes away in like a minute. We don't have that. It just stayed fogged like all day long, where now it actually heats the door, which you wouldn't think you would heat the door, but yeah, who knows if we need all that. But it was really hard to find one that would fit that space and any to buy because of COVID. Like, it's been hard if you've been looking for a freezer. So in here, we've got Apistogramma cockatoides, super reds. We've got the pork chop Rasboras and the alien suckers, the reticulated hillstream loaches kind of over here on the left. And then last but not least, skunk Corydoras. Now, all of these guys, these are kind of expensive fish. Like the schooling fish is $4. The hillstream loaches are $20. The skunk Corydoras are $9.99. And yeah, it's gotten a lot more expensive, honestly, with COVID. There's so few flights. We've had troubles. And like I know right now, every bag of fish that we try to import, there's a surcharge of anywhere from $15 to $35 per bag. And so, you know, if you put 50 fish in a bag and you surcharge it for $35, it's like, oh, every fish went up by like 75 cents. And so that translates to everyone else. I've been told we have some prices that are super cheap, you know, like some of our rainbow fish, and then some are like, that's way more expensive. It's the same with food. You go here and you get a Big Mac and $8. Like, over here in this state, it's only $4. Like, yeah, that's the way the world works. So. Ooh, this is a good fish. Up top, we've got the green fire tetras. These guys are pretty cool, just from their body color. And if you have a lot of red plants in the tank, the green really stands out, which is uncommon. Most people have more green plants. But then we also have the Vietnamese white cloud, which kind of have that nice little blue eye, and they stay a little smaller. So kind of a good like 10-gallon-ish fish, 10, 15 gallon. And down below, I got word that Dean just took some of these home. He walked in, he brought fish in today, and these have more iridescence. You can kind of see it sometimes. We'll see if Jimmy gets any in the B-roll, but from the top down, they look platinum. And then from the side, you'll see the spangles sometimes pop up. And, you know, the ones that I have right now are a little more white than they are platinum. But I also noticed that when I did have the platinum, I got way more like non-white or platinum. It was like more of the princess gene and that kind of stuff. So again, cool water fish down on the bottom. Yeah, they go for $14. The good news is they're not that hard to breed. There's a pleco in here that I don't know if I know. An orange longtail, Peru orange longtail pleco. I don't know. Oh, there it is. Yeah, the hype train is big on that one. Like, I'm not a huge fan. Like, I'm sure, I know we didn't give it the name. I'm sure it was that on a list. To me, L329. So it's not like a mega clown pleco, but it kind of just looks like a clown pleco, except it's like at least twice the price. So, you know, maybe I haven't kept it. So it could be one of those things like, oh, when it turns into adult, it's amazing. Or, you know, variety is never a bad thing. You know, someone's going to fall in love with that. It just isn't me today. So what do we got next? Another staple that I always keep around, and that would be the glowfish. You can see this one actually has a broken jaw right here. Well, I don't know if it's broken, but he's got something going on with this. No, his jaw works. He just has an extra like bone growth there. You know, he'll live his life fine, and we'll probably just give him to someone that wants to take him. A lot of times that's what we'll do if we have a fish that is not sellable, but we probably get a fish like that every week between the store, maybe two. We would just end up having way too many fish that are going to live 7 or 8 years if we do that every week. That's like, oh, that's another 100 fish a year. Pretty soon you're keeping 1,000 kind of orphans alive. So usually someone will go, if someone's buying like 10, we'll go, hey, do you want this other one? Like, he's going to be fine. He's not sick. He just, you know, a little special, that's all. Down below here, we've got neon green Rasboras. Those are super cool because green is a rare color, and they're a nice iridescent green. We have to sell those for $5.49. They keep going up in price. They're not easy to spawn, from what I know. Right here we've got Apistogramma borelli at $21.99, and we've got some Farlowellas, or yeah, Vittata. So a little bit smaller, not the royals or anything like that. So down low, we've got a ton of swordtails. These are just assorted swordtails, and then albino Corydoras. This is kind of the cheaper fish, if you will. Yeah, they're $5 each, but they're real hardy. And you know, what we found over the years is that fish, if you make them too cheap, people don't respect them. So it's like, we could probably sell the albinos a little bit cheaper, but we get them really healthy. We feed them a lot of food to feed them up, and then we want someone to have success. So we could probably sell that fish as cheap as $3, but we couldn't put all the food into it. And if you're new and you're buying those albinos, which is a good beginner fish, and then they die, you get discouraged from the hobby. So we would rather have people go, they're too expensive, I'll shop somewhere else, than have the people that are willing to invest and want to be very successful not get that experience, because it just doesn't look good on us when fish are dying. So we do everything we can to keep that from happening, even when it inflates the price, unfortunately. Next up, we've got orange flash cockatoides, which are very similar to the other super red cockatoides, except all the fins are orange. Then we've got a herd of pygmy Corydoras. Now they just need lots and lots of food. It's common for them to be this small. Lots of frozen bloodworms and things like that usually does best. Let me see if I'm going to see if I have some frozen bloodworms. I'll put them in there and we'll see if we can get them eating it. We'll probably have to move on for a little bit, but yeah, well, let's see. Those are jumbo. So you can actually see that we feed quite a bit of, we feed frozen food every day. You can see that we're feeding live brine shrimp, all of that. This is the actual fridge that we were using to feed the store. Our other one that we sold out of broke, so we're going to have to replace all of this, but bloodworms are right here. This is going to be Cyclops, or, well, let's see. Yeah, looks like Cyclops. And then this is probably brine shrimp. Come back here. You're going to have to give it a little bit. You'll probably see the tetras. This is that whole thing where I'm talking about tetras will get the majority of the food. If I just put the 1 cube in like that, and by the way, you don't have to defrost food. A lot of people go, oh my gosh, what about all the stuff that goes with it? Yeah, it's not a problem. Won't it be bad for the fish? Doesn't matter. Just like those Silvertip Tetras, if that's all I did, no one on the bottom's ever getting any. So sometimes you have to overfeed, and that's where this tank is actually going to get quite a bit of food to start putting weight back on the little Corydoras. So we're 3 cubes at this point. And I don't feed this tank every day, so I don't even know if that'll be enough, but I suspect 3 will be enough. And if we go and talk about some other fish, we'll get to see, oh, look at that. The panda cories are chowing down. Maybe we'll talk about some plants while we wait. So over here, we've got our plant station, if you will. There's lots of backup plants next door because these plants rotate in and out basically several times a day because we've gotten very popular compared to when I built the store. It's almost like 7 years ago now where, you know, we might get like, oh, we got 4 customers today. And now it's like, I don't even know, 10 plus an hour. It's getting out of control. We have a whole, like this over here is a whole waiting system. So because we have to limit how many people can be in the store because of COVID, basically 1 group of people per employee. And then After that, we're handing out like restaurant things, like a busy restaurant, right? Like, oh yeah, you'll get in about 15 minutes, you know, when we get a table ready. But here we've got all of our plants. Now, some of them are awesome and some of them are awesome. So like right here, we have so the people online don't get this, and I'll tell you why. These are fully converted Cryptropicas. So that means it's highly unlikely they'll melt down when they go to your tank, but the picture would show a bigger crypt online. And so when we send them out, if we send out 100, 20 people complain saying, you didn't send me a very big plant. We're actually sending this to them in great shape, ready to go, ready to rock and roll, better than the other way, but people complain. So when they do finish converting or start converting, we send them over here to the store, and then one-on-one we can explain to people like, this plant is ready to rock and roll, plus you're standing here and you go, ooh, I want this front one, or ooh, I want that second one, or I want, and so that way you can make the choice. We've got CO2 running into most tanks. You can see it purling on this Brazilian pennywort. You can see it lifting off of the crypts. You can see it lifting off the Italian val. Up here, it's really going wild. Lots of, probably Monte Carlo, probably Monte Carlo. And then we've got Scarlet Temple. We've got normal baby tears and lots of water sprite. We've got some Crypt Vendettae. Here's a great example. Up front, fully converted, looks amazing, right? That thing is going to be a great plant, grow big, and give you all that color. Here's what you'd be buying online. This looks way different, and that's what the picture looks like. So you can see the leaves down low are actually the ones that are new. These ones have been growing out of water. And so we don't like to get the bad reviews, and I've tried to educate a million times on, you actually want the smaller plant. No, I heard that before, buddy. You're not giving me a smaller pizza. Like, okay. Yeah, and I should say right now, you can't request fully converted plants because they won't even be at the warehouse. We already move them, so you can't be like, oh, by the way, I want the fully converted ones. Like, they just have to be this way. So yeah, down low, we've got nice Amannia gracilis. This plant should be selling 10 times faster than it does online. People buy it all day long here in person. Online, I think part of the problem is we don't have quite as good of pictures because we'd rather undersell you and over-deliver than go with like, look, it's the, some places will go, here's an aquascape that won a competition. We're selling this plant, and that's not what you're getting. This is more what you're going to get right here in the tank, and but it should sell way faster because this plant looks amazing in our warehouse all the time. Let's see if those guys are getting any. Here we go. I snuck up on them, but you can see they're all so out of 3 cubes, about 3/4, maybe half of one made it down to the Corydoras. So you got them over here, and so now they're actually getting bellyfuls. It's very easy in a store or even at home to just be going, oh yeah, one here, one there, and you assume they're getting fed. And that's, a lot of times people say, you feed too much. It's from working in a store for the past 10 years of, oh man, I feed this tank every day, but why are they losing weight? And it's a lot of times because the food won't actually get to the bottom dwellers. And most people don't account for their Plecostomus and their Loaches and their Corydoras, and they should eat just as much, if not more, than all the Tetras above them. I mean, all the Tetras nice and plump, all the Corydoras going, hey, we want more food, and so we try to accommodate. Up top, we have lots of mollies. Unfortunately, we have the world's most expensive mollies at $9.99, but we pay to get freshwater ones. Most of them are raised in brackish water. Costs us a lot of money, but again, we want them to live for people, and I am breeding them at my house now, so that's going to help bring some of the costs down, and that's part of the reason we have the new fish farm, and we'll be able to, one, bring the cost down a little bit. Maybe they're only going to be like 6 or 7 because it's going to cost a lot of money to raise them. A lot of food goes in. I don't skimp on the food, myself included, so I usually get pretty big, robust fish out of it. Here we've got lots of gold rams. Dean has been going crazy making rams. You can see we got a ton of gold rams in here, and we sell them at $14.99. Now this is a fish that probably might be cheaper than your local fish store, and we sell them buy 2 get 1 free, and they're Dean's because I think he literally has like another 800 or 900 at home. At one point when we did his tour, he had thousands and thousands. So that's, one good thing and bad thing about Dean is sometimes he'll make way too many fish, and then sometimes he can't make enough. Right now, it is the golden age to get these gold rams. You're getting very high quality genes, and you're getting 3 of them for $30. Like, that's $10 a ram. That's good times. Down low, we've got the goldfish, the small fancy goldfish. Not a whole lot to say other than we keep some goldfish. They stay cool water. We keep them down low, right? So yeah, they're going to come into a lot more season, if you will. Coming out of winter, there'll be more people wanting to talk about ponds outside, and that also brings people to talk about their goldfish inside too. So we'll be doing that. Ooh, I can see there is a juicy bristlenose plecostomus maintaining that cave. In here we have the German blue rams. Now, German blue rams we highly recommend at warmer temperatures. In here we've got them at least 82.5. A lot of times you go to up to 85 if you're breeding them. Rominose Tetras looking good. And then I just want to see this guy, if he's just super chunky or what. It's like heavy. No, he's just got a giant mustache. He definitely made me think he's way bigger. So that's a nice male there. Always a good time though. And then we've got lost stir-by Corys. This is a fish I want to bring home and breed also. You can see in here, a lot of their bellies are skinny. Now, some of you might think, hey, you're not feeding your fish enough. On average, bottom dwellers at wholesalers, they're kept like this and they don't put nearly enough food because frozen bloodworms are expensive. And so they'll feed a little bit of flake and pellet and that kind of stuff, but you really got to get that protein on them to really get them bigger. So we'll be feeding them live baby brine and things like bloodworms every day. But they might only be here for a week, and that's why I always tell people, like, your job continues at home. Once you get at home, you gotta quarantine them. Part of the reason you're quarantining is to really feed them up really well, and the other part is to just make sure they don't get sick. Like, yeah, we've brought everything, and when I speak about quarantine, we put everything through a quarantine room. Well, I guess not 100% everything. Everything gets quarantined, but not everything goes specifically through this room. So in here, a lot of the stuff you'll see is backups for what's already out here. Like here's a ton of Leopard Danios, right? Here's a ton of maybe Endlers or Guppies. Kind of looks like a mix. And then we've got lots more Glowlight Tetras. Now, most stores might bring this out and put them with the main group. We don't want a chance getting that group sick. And then also we're going through and you can see here we've got meds, right? Well, you might not know that. I know we have meds. Because there's all the bubbles on the top of the water. Now, you also start looking like, hey, there's one dead fish, and there's a fish struggling. So it's likely they've got a bacterial infection. That's the most likely problem with big groups of tetras when you're bringing them in. So we preemptively always treat for that. You can see when you look across the top of the water, which ones usually have meds. Like there's a lot of bubbles that aren't popping. This is either ammonia or it's meds, and it's meds. There's a lot of fish in here. When you look, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. What else we got hanging out back here? Oh, did we bring the emerald eye? Yeah, the emerald eye. You probably brought him in because I referenced him in a video because I really like that fish. That fish is actually a really tight schooler, and they're usually pretty cheap. And so they're tight like rummy nose. A lot of people are like, well, yeah, this school's like, these guys, they move around kind of, but they're not super tight schoolers. Those emerald eye Rasboras are really tight schoolers. And they're really nice to put them in a planted tank where you don't want the fish to be the focus, you want the plants. So more plants back here. We've really been selling a lot of plants. This is the drop-off tank. So this is when orphans and that kind of stuff, you see this guy, he's got like a jaw problem. There's a goldfish in here. So we usually build this up, then we'll put meds through it, and then we'll put them like in a kind of a $1-ish bin. Sometimes it's $2. But there's a lot of, like there's a common pleco, so that we never sell common plecos normally. There's some nice black mollies. I would even almost take those home after they quarantine. Some rainbow fish. So some people are gonna be like, that female rainbow's worth way more than $2. Like, yep. And we kind of encourage people like, adopt some of these. Don't just come here and cherry pick. Like that's not the goal. Like if you wanted some legit, sure. But like, ooh, that was a nice, you got an Odessa barb in there, a couple of Odessa barbs, and you got a longfin Rosy barb too. But we can't just take them, like I can't take that Rosy barb or rose lion shark, put it here, put that there, because we're just going to contaminate the whole place. And so we'd rather just give the deals. And so that's why we typically won't offer money to someone dropping fish off, because we still have to put meds. Like right now, this is a good example. I don't know if we paid for these or not, but I'm wagering we didn't. Or we just gave them like a bag of food or something, equivalent. And the meds that'll go in here, not that expensive, like maybe we're into it for, $10. The problem is this takes up a spot so we can't order other fish. And so we've only got so many quarantine tanks. And you can see most of them are always filled, and today's Monday. So more of these are gonna have to come out, and then we're gonna be bringing new fish in, and we wanna make sure we always have enough room. So that's the problem we run into with free fish. Nothing's ever free, right? We've got the notorious Dean's Midnight Rams here and dwarf petricolas. Now, the cool thing that I think right now, these are locally bred. I don't know that I've ever met the person that's locally breeding those yet. Great fish, usually reserved for a cichlid tank, but they do quite well in community tanks we find. And then we've got a lot of lemon tetras. I think those are really undersung in this hobby as well. They look really good as they keep getting brighter and brighter and more defined red eye. I'll probably do something with them in the new fish room, like in a tank to, that's kind of the goal, is breed some stuff and highlight some stuff where people are like, I forgot how good those look. Because usually, you know, you just pass over them, but you forget when you see them in full breeding dress, like, oh wow, those are amazing. Down low, algae crew, we've got a bunch of flagtail, or not flagtail, but flagfish. And so, yeah, they're good at eating brush algae. They don't have to be heated, so that's a plus. And yeah, they're good at just that blackbeard algae crew. Ooh, the tank to the righty is pretty cool too. Now, this is the one that I need to yell at Robert for. Blind cave tetras are amazing because they don't have any eyes. But the problem with blind cave tetras, because they don't have any eyes, they kind of feel around by biting stuff, and it stresses out a lot of fish. So they literally don't have eyes. They're kind of this zombie fish that gross a lot of people out, but they are cool. Now, in this tank specifically, it's okay because the cribs, you know, can hold their own, the loaches can hold their own. But if a lot of people, you know, when you're working at a pet store, I have a tetra tank, I'm going to add some tetras. These are not good just to add to every other tetra because the other tetras don't really know how to defend themselves, where these cichlids, the crebensis, will. So up top, a fish that should sell 10 times as many as we do, the cherry barb. The males look that nice, beautiful red. Yeah, that guy's on fire.
Yeah. I'll explain this light too.
Because everyone always asks us. This is a light that's not made anymore. It's called the Phoenix Stingray. It gets way too hot. You don't want to hold it for a long time. It gets too hot. Like, ow, it's really hot. Like, it gets really hot. But what it does, it makes color pop. Now, some people get onto us like, that's not the true color. You're right. You're right, it's not the true color. But this color you see right here is the color you're going to see when they grow up. So a lot of times when we were selling them in the store, when we could get them, which we don't sell the light anymore, but if anyone ever asks, we can just pull a light over and then we go, okay, so here, this is what you're buying right now. You're gonna be red, but if you've ever seen ember tetras, once they're really colored up, they look that super red. And so that actually, I think, gives them a more accurate picture. And if anyone asks, like, we don't try to hide it. It's not like, well, mine don't look that red. Oh, you don't have this light, you know? Like, we're not trying to hide it. We don't, like I said, at this point, we can't even get enough to sell, so it's not like we're trying to extra hype train and sell more. We're just trying to accurately, like, these guys will be nice and red, you know, even with a good light on them. So yeah, I like it. And that's the thing, is you can buy color enhancing lights, and I do like to do that. I don't do any right now. I have on display tanks in the past, especially on discus and that kind of stuff, because you buy a fish for how good it looks. So why wouldn't you want to use a light that makes them look even better? That's my opinion. But the Khyber's Tetra, this is 100% definitely a Robert fish.
Watermelon?
I don't know.
Watermelon Tetra?
I don't know. I feel like someone could call it a watermelon. Like, this is that fish where you better give it a special name because no one's going to buy it without a special name. Like, it's purely for the, I've been in the hobby for 700 years and I haven't kept that. They'll buy this fish. But outside of that, like, with all these colors, without it doing something cool that I don't know about, it's a hard sell on me of like, well, I mean, it's kind of cool. Whereas like these Victorian mouth breeders are amazing. I've kept those for many years. There's a Victorian, Lake Victoria, well, a river, I believe. But they're mouth brooder, actually an African cichlid. They do okay in community-ish tanks, planted tanks, and that's why we sell them. I actually love them. I used to breed them all the time. Back when they were much harder to get, I made a ton of money selling them on Aquabid before I could afford to make my own way in the... I worked for a store, but I didn't make enough money, so I had to supplement by breeding fish. So, love that fish though. All right, ooh, got this one up here. Got this large Oranda, looking good, looking healthy, no swim bladder problems. Don't let my wife see it, she'll want it. And yeah, it's a good looking little fish. Well, not little, it's big actually. I mean, if you look at, you know, It's not bigger than my hand like when we were in China looking at the championships, but it's a big fish, and doesn't have perfect finnage or anything like that, but the thing is, some people might go, that fish is $100. If this thing had perfect fins and everything, I could charge $800, $1,000, and someone would pay it. So at $100, you're getting a nice, like, fairly developed fish. Yeah, it's not perfect fins, but you're also getting that much better price point. Here we've got guppies galore. I still plan on setting up a guppy galore tank at my own house. Like, I've got a lot of bins doing it, but I still believe this is one of the best planted tank fish. You set up a nice planted tank with 1 billion guppies. I actually think it's hard to beat it. I think it's one of the best possible tanks. It's kind of one of those favorites like neon tetras and plants. I really like those too. We'll chime in on Murphy for a moment because he's already asleep, but his tank is starting to fill in. It does not look nearly as good as I want it to, but I have to endure this pain for like a year before it's going to look amazing. So, but here's Big Murph. Yeah, buddy. How you doing? And then when you look over here, the plants are filling in. They're actually starting to come in pretty thick. And I know sound is terrible over here, so I apologize, but they're starting to come in pretty thick. We just need to get more ferts in, and time. Time is what it needs, and we're giving it that. So it exponentially goes. Plants are kind of one of those things where you're like, oh, it took forever to make one more. But then that one more, it takes forever to make 2 more, and then forever, and pretty soon you're like, oh, it made 50. Oh, it makes 100 now. Oh, it makes 200, and then it's going to just keep spreading exponentially through the tank, and then it'll look really good. So for now, I just have to take my beating of why'd you make that look worse? Why doesn't it look better? It's like I've got a vision. It's going to take time. It's like planting a garden. Like if someone doesn't have all the plants for you to buy right off the get-go, or you can't afford that, you got to spend the time and go, okay, well, I'm just going to have to sit here for a few years until it grows in. And then everyone's going to say, hey, that looks amazing, and I'll feel really good about it. But until then, I just got to take it. So I will point out, this is a normal light. You see how red that cherry barb is that is nice and adult? Very red, just like the other ones. So that's what we're trying to show people is like these fish look amazing under normal light once they are actually colored up and old enough. And you can see here, we were talking about those cryptoid dead eyes and stuff. Here they are, they grew in just like those baby ones were, you know, and so it's hard to show people what it's going to finally look like versus what comes in, you know, even fish-wise and plant-wise. And of course, Thatch's tank. This is like, I don't want to call it the best, but it's one of the best little nano tanks that I enjoy seeing all the time because it's only like 2.5, right? 3 gallons? 3.5. I think it's 3.5 gallons. I think it just gives a lot of people a lot of hope. This is a lot of work to maintain, and it's super cool. But if you do have an attention to detail and you're willing to put a ton of time into a small tank, it's pretty rewarding. So, all right, what do we got down here? We have the glass gobies. Those things are super weird. I've actually never kept them. I always wanted to bring them in, but we could never afford to, basically. The reality is now that we're successful, you know, in year 7, we were probably successful in year 5, but now we can actually afford to bring in some of these rare things where before I couldn't take the chance. What if they come in, they don't sell? I can't afford to just sit on, you know, those watermelon tetras at $13 a piece. If they weren't selling, I wasn't eating. At that point, that many years ago, I literally was eating like top ramen in the back, you know, when it was just like me and one other employee. And so that was more than 2 years ago because time flies for me. But they're definitely, when I was ordering a lot of fish, I could only spend X amount, and could I afford to do that? And I did take chances on things, especially if people I knew wanted to buy them, like these guys here, right here actually. These black line freshwater pipefish we've done before, and they have to eat live baby brine. They've actually seen them eating some frozen cyclops. It's really hard to transition them off of the live food, but that's a fish that is highly likely to die in someone else's care unless they know I have to feed it live foods. It's going to be, it gets outcompeted very easily. You got to really overfeed, and they're 25 bucks a piece, and you need a group of them to breed them, and it's not easy, but very cool and unique fish. So high maintenance for us, and high maintenance for other people as well, but rewarding when you get it going. All right, down here we've got a lot of little rilly shrimp, red rillies, and then we've got the red coral or red arc pencilfish, and then we've also got the chili rasbora, which these things, I'm going to get a big group of these going in a tank because I've never been able to afford them as a hobbyist. And so I feel like after owning a store for 7 years and selling it, you know, thousands of them to other people, maybe it's time that I get to enjoy some. Like, part of the problem of owning a store is that you obviously are passionate about fish and you love all of them, but you don't have a million tanks, you don't have an unlimited budget. And so I've always known, like, well, I'll do that at some point in the future because we can never get enough of these. So other people want to buy them, and I always feel like it's selfish if I'm just like, well, they're mine, I'm going to take these ones home. And so I've seen, like, you do groups of them. I've seen, like, everyone around me do groups of them, but I have never done a group of them at home, which is sad because I know how good they look when they're adults. Most people at the store, you wouldn't know it, but the other problem I think I would create at this point is once we do a tank with them and they look really good, every store is going to sell out, because if you haven't seen them in person full on fired up in red, you have no idea, like chili rasbora, okay, because a lot of fish, like that watermelon tetra, sure, like that thing looks about as watermelon as I do like David Hasselhoff, right? Like it's not even close, or is it? But these guys, that chili red, they are amazing. So when you do see that like picture that maybe Jimmy will put up, or you know, you Google it, and you're like, that's too good to be true. That is legit how good they look. So they're also small. There's that thing too. So they get lost in a big tank. You got to kind of either have way too many of them, which is costly because they're, what are they, $4.29 a piece? Yeah, they're getting brutal. But they're not super easy to breed, and no one breeds them in high quantities. Not high enough so that we can have as many as we want. That's a fish we get limited on, and a lot of times aren't available. So we buy them all the time. But they also get a lot of stores. So this could be a thing for other stores too. A lot of times we'll order chili rasboras in. It's not the rasbora that comes in. You'll get exclamation point rasboras. You'll get strawberry rasboras. You'll get there's like one more that gets mixed in too. Oh, the maculatus, the spotted rasbora, and it's always a letdown because you paid the price for the chili rasbora, and then they get there and you're like, these aren't them. Dang it! And then you know you can't. If they don't make a mistake, it's the ones they have were sold to them as chili rasbora. So you have to wait for them to get a new shipment. Then you try it again. When you're lucky and you find a wholesaler that will really specialize and focus on that, then you get your fill rates a lot better. All right, I think that's, you know, there's probably a few more hidden gems in here, but I want people to still be able to come in and find some stuff. And you know, it's a long enough video already. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. I'm definitely, once I'm done building my fish farm and that kind of stuff, I'm going to get back in here more at night like we are. We're here late at night. And work on changing a few things. There's a few things that now, you know, I'm like, oh, I mean to do that. Like, we're hopefully going to upgrade Murphy's tank someday, change displays around a little bit. As we've changed, like, selling different foods, things have just changed over time. And so now I've got a little more time. Part of the problem is when you work in the store, you don't have time to work on the store. You're working in it. You're already tired. I need to retrofit this. I need to change this out. You don't have time. Well, I never had days off. I still don't have days off, but you wouldn't have time to build stuff to go in, because everything that's here, by the way, I haven't mentioned that in a long time, is everything's sustainably harvested. So all the maple woods were sustainably harvested. I always forget, well, not forget, but I haven't mentioned this a long time. Like this was a pole that we pulled out of a random like garbage pit in a parking lot. These grates, these are, you know, like the food racks. They were left here by the cleaning company before us. All of this right here. So all of this, these are bed rails. If you've ever bought like a cheap bed where it just has the metal bed rails, that's all metal bed rails down there. We do a lot of, you know, just because it was never meant for that doesn't mean it couldn't be used for that. And there are new pieces like this angle iron or this tube iron, that's new because we couldn't find an acceptable alternative. But, you know, this is sustainably harvested, and I believe this is actually reclaimed lumber, all of this. So anywhere we can, we try to reclaim. You know, we've got the burls here. This is, you know, this nice fabric that I like. It actually came from a thrift store. And, you know, again, here, more of these metal racks. And because, one, we didn't have the budget, but two, like, here we are 7 years later, this metal rack has worked just fine. And so we could have built it out of something else, but we've always tried to, one, build a lot of stuff ourselves or with help. And then two, you know, well, how can we do this in a little bit more sustainable way? I do know that over there, with all the plants, we're actually going to redo the whole plant rack to have many more plants there, because so employees don't have to go grab them 10 times a day. Yeah, and some things need touch-ups, like 7 years of people using the counter. It's gotten chipped up, but it's all sustainably harvested as well. Like, we're not going to replace it, but it's like, well, maybe we can put a new coat of epoxy on it or something like that. You know, and just things like this, like needs a little bit of new paint. So maybe one day we'll get in here and we'll try and paint, you know, not cause too many problems and things like that. But, you know, my goal is to try and avoid becoming too much of the old crusty fish store. Too often it's like, well, it's still making money. Why invest more money into it? Because eventually you wake up and you're like, oh, you're that pet store that smells and has got garbage everywhere and fish are sick and all of that. I mean, like, this drives me nuts. Like, we had a leak from our bulkhead and that got between the paint, and so it looks terrible. And so I haven't had the time, but we can easily now, like, my plan is to, okay, well, let's get a new 55, let's drill it, let's put in maybe an actual background and then replace it, and just, you know, continually make things better, which I'm not going to say our store is not an ADA store. It doesn't look amazing everywhere. We try to meet that balance of what's functional and what looks acceptable. You know, like right now I know we have to paint over here. Well, I don't know. We've got to wait till we get the new freezer, but because we were using well, you can see here, bedpost, right? Or bed feet. This is more angled iron. This had a little rubber piece, but it's gone now, but holds our CO2 tank. This kind of system was over here. We had put this in from here to here, and it held our freezer. Well, that freezer broke. Now we have to put a new big one here, and if it covers it up, we won't have to instantly paint. But for sure, we'll be wiping down the back now that we can get to it. Like, I don't even know what it is, but we're gonna wipe it down. Trying to maintain, it's really hard to maintain. Like, even right here, we've had carpet problems. You can see it starts getting ratty, that kind of stuff. It's just trying to stay on top of the things that, you know, wear and tear. It's like a car, right? It's like, well, the more you use it, the more it's gonna run down. And the more it runs down, if you don't do anything, eventually it just quits one day. And all of a sudden it's like, I gotta buy a new car, I gotta build a new fish store. But if you go, well, should do that oil change. Yeah, it is getting time to do the brakes. You do all those things, and hopefully we'll keep it up to, like, this is just a good, efficient running car. Not the newest. It's not gonna break down on us, but keep it useful. So, because too many people depend on it, both fans, customers, and employees, and myself. So, all right, back to work for us, I guess.